And we continue at 107 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. Mr. Randy Wang's at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, let's get back to politicians getting heckled. Here's Karen Bass trying to defend Katie Yaroslavsky for wanting to put a homeless shelter right next to a school on the west side, and the residents didn't take too kindly to that.
Let me just say that your councilwoman, I believe, is taking a very brave stance.
John, that community meeting sounded like an angel game.
She's standing up there getting booed at some community meeting in Los Angeles, and she's thinking to herself, you know, had things turned out a little bit differently, I could have been the vice president.
Yeah, but then Kamala made sure that didn't happen.
I will repeat myself.
800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is a pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a Republican political strategist at Thomas Partner Strategies. You can find him online at tpstrat.com and follow him on Twitter at @ThomasGuide. John Thomas, welcome.
Hey, John. Good to be with you.
Thanks so much for stopping by. Now, let's start out with the Carla Marinucci tweet over the weekend that I think caused heart palpitations all over the country, primarily here in California and in Washington, D.C., and primarily with 3 members of the House who are running for U.S. Senate. Here is what Carla Marinucci tweeted this weekend. Interesting lunch today with Willie Brown, who predicts the real power candidate in 2024 CA Senate race will be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Quote, it would be like the recall all over, and says Arnold could win handily. Asked if he's talked to his buddy on this, Willie just smiled and said, no comment. In response to this tweet, someone tweeted at Carla and said, Carla, will he run as a D or an R? Not that it matters. Carla responded by saying, he's always said he's a loyal Republican, but wonder if Trump's latest issues have influenced him in any way. What do you make of all of this?
Oh, man, I have to wonder if it's just a trial balloon that Willie is purposely, floating out there. But then again, look, we know that Arnold has just been twiddling his thumbs for a number of years. We know that he is regularly in the local press still weighing in on political issues. We also know, John, that he's taken a leftward shift even after leaving the governor's office on key Democratic issues like climate change and others. So I wouldn't be surprised if Arnold did run. Probably my guess, John, is a no-party preference candidate. I don't really see a path for him as a Republican. I wouldn't even be shocked if he re-registered as a soft Democrat. But look, Arnold starts out with universal name recognition, and let's be honest, the field on the Democratic side is pathetically weak, with Adam Schiff seems like the front runner, but other than being the anti-Trump guy, I mean, what qualifies Adam to actually hold the job? So I wouldn't be surprised. And the last thing, John, is you've got to remember when running statewide as a candidate in the state of California, the main hurdle, the main obstacle is creating name recognition. And most candidates, even Adam Schiff, although he starts out with some ID, they purchase it. And that's why self-funders are always the mythical unicorns in statewide races, because they can purchase ID. Arnold does not have to purchase that ID. He starts out, for better or for worse, with ID on day one.
Okay, let's go through the potential issues here with an Arnold candidacy. Let's start out with age. Arnold is 71 years old. He just had a birthday. He would start out as a freshman U.S. senator in an institution that respects and rewards seniority as a 71-year-old freshman. How much of a problem would that be?
Well, I mean, the answer is it depends, John. It might be a major problem because the conversation we might be having in the next few months is with McConnell and Feinstein. Essentially, age could be, in fact, one of the questions as we go into this cycle. And if that's the case, you're handing a golden opportunity for Arnold's challengers. On the flip side, we may see, if it's Trump versus Biden, that perhaps age is only a number. There are people that should be in the convalescent homes like Joe Biden, and then there are people that have vim and vigor like President Trump, where age is maybe not as much of a factor. If Arnold Schwarzenegger comes out doing push-ups and sprints, perhaps he can overcome that issue. But it is a big question, John, given the fact of what we're seeing right now with Dianne Feinstein giving power of attorney to her daughter, getting rolled around in a wheelchair all over the Capitol. It is a question at the top of voters' mind. I'm not sure if it'll be the dominant question, but it might be.
Well, and everything is relative. You look at who else is in this race. Barbara Lee, I believe, is 76 or 77 years old. She would be an 80-something-year-old freshman if she were elected. Adam Schiff, who's not regarded as being old, he's still 63 years old, would be 64 by Election Day next year. That would make him a 70-year-old freshman should he be elected as well. Katie Porter is the youngest one in the race, so if age is the big issue, I guess Katie Porter is your candidate. But if you don't like Katie Porter, I don't think you care about the age of the candidates. You're not going to vote for Katie Porter.
Right. I would give, I'm not advocating for Arnold, but if I were his consultant, what I actually would do would be prescribe to hang a lantern on the age issue and use this as a wedge to jam all career politicians, particularly your main competition, which would be Adam Schiff most likely, and say that career politicians are the problem. And what I would say to that, John, is Arnold should say that he's running to go in for one term. He'll take a one-term term limit pledge to go in and fix Washington and then retire. And so you can essentially say, look, I'm not going to end up being a drooler like Dianne Feinstein and these others. I'm going to go in, I'm going to go fix it, and then I'm going to go into retirement because career politicians are the problem, and we don't need another lifer like Adam Schiff or Dianne Feinstein.
Okay, let's talk about Arnold's relationship with Republican voters in California. Republican voters, almost 2-1, feel burned by him. That he ran as a candidate who ran on a certain platform that aligned with their beliefs, and he got in and lost those statewide ballot propositions that would have reformed the way that education was conducted in California and other issues. And after that, he essentially became co-opted by the Democrats in the legislature and became one of them. Do you believe Republican voters in California, given that that's the relationship that most of them have with Arnold Schwarzenegger, would support Arnold at the ballot box simply as a measure of blocking Adam Schiff or Katie Porter or Barbara Lee from attaining a seat that they'd probably keep until they decided to retire or died?
Well, it's really challenging, and of course it depends what his party affiliation when he runs is, but the relationship, as you aptly described with Republicans at best, is complicated. And the problem Arnold could run into is that he has no home with Republicans because they feel that he wasn't a good Republican when he was governor, which is a fair critique, but he also may find that he has no home with Democrats because he wasn't liberal enough as governor, and that may leave him getting through a primary with no home at all. He may find himself in an awkward position, not able to get through a primary and then resisting the urge to pander to Republicans because he would be difficult to get, to win in a general election. The tightrope walk will be incredibly difficult because running as a reformer only typically works once, and he did that when he was running after the recall. It's a challenging thing. I mean, I think the main point that a Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger would have here running for the Senate is that he starts out with a lot of name ID. I mean, that's essentially his big asset, and that's significant. But name ID does need to be translated into votes, and sometimes it doesn't work that way. And I think that's the hurdle that Arnold will have to bear.
And there are candidates who exist who professionally run against their own party. John Kasich tried that when he ran for president. John Huntsman tried that in a Republican primary when he ran for president. We've certainly seen Robert F. Kennedy Jr. do that on any number of subjects in the current Democratic primary. They certainly get lots of bookings on television, and they stir the pot, but candidates that run against their own party don't usually win general elections, do they?
Well, that's right. For a couple reasons. Is one, you need your base to show up enthusiastically to vote for you, even though Republicans are not the dominant party in the state of California. It's almost no party preference at this point. But you can't get where you need to go without your base. So that is right. I think the other challenge is you've got to remember we typically remind our clients what's going on above you on the ticket when you're on the ballot, because oftentimes that will dictate the lens of which the electorate, and in this case the primary electorate, will be viewing you, and what's going to be going on above Arnold in this election, which is going to be the presidential primary, John. And so the singular question for Republicans, a lot of them in California, is, are you with Trump or are you not? And if Arnold most likely would not be with Trump, I think he's spoken out against Trump, that could dramatically hurt Arnold even getting through a primary if he's not willing to get in line with who probably the eventual nominee is.
Let's talk about what type of U.S. Senator Arnold would be. Because in his career, he's been a governor where you call all the shots. You control the executive branch in the largest state in the union. Before that, he was a big Hollywood megastar where he called all the shots on every movie he was on. He was always the headliner who sold the tickets, and because of that, was the power player. If you then take that type of personality and put it in the U.S. Senate, nothing happens where you have complete control over it. You have to work collaboratively with others to try to get legislation through. You go from being the biggest guy in the biggest state or the biggest guy in the biggest industry to 1/100th of 1/2 of 1/3 of the government. And you need to participate in the committee process. You need to get 51 votes or more on legislation. And then you need to get the other House of Congress to vote for it before the president signs it to get anything through. It seems like that would frustrate Arnold.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you just look at, you're exactly right. And he's your classic, leading man. He's used to being the star of the show, whether it's in his Hollywood productions or his limited political career. And you're right. Being in the Senate, you have to collaborate. You have to defer to leadership. It is much more complicated. While you do have a bully pulpit, it's nowhere near the magnitude you have when you're in an executive position. So you're right. I don't think Arnold's character, his personality, and his prior experience is going to bode well to serve in the U.S. Senate. I do wonder, though, John, if that's too much of a nuanced argument in the campaign 30-second ad wars in the state of California to make. But the truth is the truth. I don't think that he really is going to be as well positioned for a deliberative body as some other candidates potentially could be. But you've got to admit that the allure for Arnold to sunset his political career to be a U.S. Senator is certainly tempting, because that is the highest post that he's eligible for. Since he wasn't born in the United States, he couldn't run for president if he wanted to be. So this might be what he thinks is the brass ring that he wants to cap his political career with.
Do you think the model for him is Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema? And I say that because Republicans, given the map next cycle, are likely to take control of the U.S. Senate. And if they take control of the U.S. Senate, they will likely have a very slim majority, in which case they'll need everyone on their side of the aisle to vote in lockstep with one another to get anything through. The Democrats have had trouble doing that because they lose Manchin and Sinema on so many subjects. Manchin and Sinema essentially combined have veto power over the Democratic policy and the policies that emerge from the U.S. Senate. If the Republicans take control and the margins are the same, then Arnold Schwarzenegger could, in theory, be the Joe Manchin or the Kyrsten Sinema of the Republican Party and have veto power over everything.
Well, I think he could. I think the challenge is, John, getting through this election cycle. I'm not so sure in a general election. I think most of the California electorate, Republicans excluded, are going to want a good blue soldier who fights the evil Republicans and the Mitch McConnells and the Kevin McCarthys like tooth and nail, not necessarily as this independent maverick messaging. But I think that's probably the best argument Arnold has, because he's not going to out blue soldier Adam Schiff or Katie Porter. If that's what you want in your U.S. senator, Adam is a good rubber stamp for every Democratic vote there has ever been. And I'm not sure that Arnold has an authentic message there. So, yeah, that's probably the best card he's got to play. And I think it also will come down to how much money does Arnold have to parrot that message to the electorate.
Let's go back to the last time Arnold Schwarzenegger ran as a non-incumbent. That was during the recall election of Gray Davis back in 2003. And part of the dynamic that existed on the left side of the aisle was that they weren't all on the same page, and there were a lot of hurt feelings that existed. Many Democrats in the state were extremely upset with Cruz Bustamante for putting his name on the ballot in the recall. They thought if Democrats just boycotted question 2, it would make it more likely than not that Gray Davis would survive question 1 and they would maintain power. Cruz Bustamante broke from the party ranks, put his name on the ballot, and as a result, a lot of people who were used to voting for Democrats did not vote for Cruz Bustamante. And not only did Arnold Schwarzenegger win, but you look at all the votes that Tom McClintock and other Republicans who ran got. Republicans did very well in question number 2 in that election. Right now, we have 3 members of the House, 3 Democrats, Adam Schiff, Katie Porter, and Barbara Lee, who are all running. Their politics are essentially very similar to one another. They all vote most of the time with the Democratic Party and with Democratic leadership. The differences between the 3 are going to boil down to personality and demographics. It's one thing if you fight over politics. It's another thing if you fight over personal issues. If it gets really nasty between the 3 of them, and on the general election ballot, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger, a liberal Republican, and we have whichever Democrat emerges as the one who gets the most votes, and you have supporters for 2 other candidates who have seriously hurt feelings. Does that create a lane for Arnold Schwarzenegger to cobble together a coalition of Republicans, independents, and Democrats with hurt feelings to beat whoever it is that makes it on the November ballot?
I mean, you might just be right. I think the other question comes is what do some of the special interest groups like the unions in the state of California, where do they break? You might just have like the perfect, bubbling pot of disenfranchised voters allowing Arnold to cobble together, the coalition that he needs. But what I would say is I think where Willie Brown is wrong is I do not think at all that it would be a cakewalk electorally for Arnold to win this race. This will be a drag-out fight, of which I'm not sure that Arnold's ever experienced anything like this before. So the Politico inside of me wants him to run because I would like to see that play out. But I'm not sure, particularly at the age that Arnold is, that he has the stamina or the mental toughness to endure that complicated fight up and down the state.
Last question before you go. It's been a very long time since Willie Brown has been an elected official. I have it on very good authority that Kamala Harris doesn't return his calls anymore. And certainly the politics of San Francisco have gone so far to the left that I'm sure he doesn't have a high opinion of many of the elected leaders who are currently there. I know that he doesn't have a high opinion of many people in the California press corps because I've heard the words come out of his mouth in person. But how relevant do you think Willie is right now, and how in the know do you think Willie is right now with whatever deliberations are going on with Arnold Schwarzenegger? And how much of this is Willie just trying to create commotion so people know that Willie's still relevant, Willie's still in the know, pay attention to what Willie Brown has to say?
That's a great question. I mean, you know Willie well, so I think you'd be better to answer that than I. But I also would give Willie, ego aside, I would give him some credit in the sense of he is a seasoned hand. He does understand the implications of floating these trial balloons, and he still is pretty plugged in, perhaps not as plugged into San Francisco, Northern California politics as he once was, but he certainly does have those kind of relationships and understands the magnitude of floating these kinds of trial balloons. So I tend to err on the side of Willie was floating an old friend a trial balloon to see how it was received, and Willie felt that he was the best person to deliver that, better than Arnold himself. So time will tell, but I feel like Willie does nothing by accident.
John Thomas, Republican strategist. You can get him online at tpstrat.com and follow him on Twitter at @TheThomasGuide. John Thomas, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
All right, you've heard the story. According to Carla Marinucci, in her conversation with former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown, Arnold Schwarzenegger is thinking about running for U.S. Senate in California to replace Dianne Feinstein. If he's successful, that could block Adam Schiff. That could block Katie Porter. That could block Barbara Lee. That could block all three of them from ever seeing the U.S. Senate. If it's going to happen, he's going to have to get the people of California to get behind it. Will you vote for Arnold Schwarzenegger for U.S. Senate if he gets in the ring? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you want to go back and listen to our interview that we just conducted with John Thomas later on today, that's easy to do.
That's right. You go to KABC.com, click on podcasts. You go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. Heck, you can go on YouTube now and search for The John Phillips Show. You can listen to it that way. So many different ways to play. You can listen to us all day long, and then we'll get real popular.
Willie Brown says former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger is thinking about running for the U.S. Senate against Adam Schiff, Barbara Lee, and Katie Porter. And if successful, he could block the three of them, the Triangle of Terror, from ever seeing the U.S. Senate. So this is why the people of California now have to wrestle with the question, would you vote for Arnold Schwarzenegger for U.S. Senate if given the opportunity? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Right now, we're taking your calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger says he's now thinking, or at least through Willie Brown, about running for the U.S. Senate. If that happens, then Adam Schiff, Katie Porter, and Barbara Lee could be like Charlie Brown with the football, where it's just slightly out of reach. But the question is, will you vote for him? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's begin with Joe in Santa Monica. Joe, you're on KABC. Hello.
Can you hear me, John?
I can, sir.
Okay, good. This is the best news I've heard for a while. I know I'm a little older than you, but it reminds me of Dick Butkus taking three people out at once. I hope the guy runs. I'm definitely going to vote for him. And I just, I hear the banter between you and your last call, your last person that you interviewed. I understand all that, but I think it's just great news. I think it's going to wake people up, and then they're going to be able to think about it. One more thing, too, John. I'm going to the Angel game tonight. I'm going to close my eyes and pretend it's 2002.
Well, if you want them to win, you might have to do that. I was there on Saturday night, and we lost in the bottom of the ninth.
Hey, the Giants have been losing like the Angels. They score runs, but not enough. And the Angels have been doing that. So this could be a good game. Thanks for being there, John.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, sir. Go Halos. Let's go to Ron in Seal Beach. Ron, you're on KABC. Hello.
Hey, John, you ever heard the term progress rather than perfection? John, Anything better than the status quo, John. Anything. Now, I'm not as savvy as you and Randy politically, okay? But I listen to you every day, and I pick up a little. And from what I know, my gut feeling tells me anything is better than the status quo, and I'm excited about that, John.
Do you think he could win? Do you think he's done it twice? Do you think he could do it a third time?
I do, because the name that he's still attached to his name, Arnold, was I don't know. A lot of people say he wasn't the greatest governor, but he's got a lot of clout, and he's been around a long time. And we know what these people, the shifts and the porters, are about. And I think Arnold would come back with some new, fresh blood. I think he could pull it off, John.
All right. Thanks for the call, sir. Let's go to Mike in L.A. Mike, you're on KABC. Hello.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. Thanks for having me on for a second. I'm not going to vote for Arnold. You know, he ushered in the Global Warming Solutions Act, which basically gave the California Air Resources Board the administrative right to dictate all kinds of changes to the economy, things that people can't afford. You know, electric buses, electric 18-wheelers. He's going to vote with the Democrats more often than Pierre Delecto.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Tom in La Cagata. Tom, you're on KABC. Hello. Tom, are you there?
Tom. Ground control to Major Tom.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There we go.
I love your show. I would definitely vote for Arnold instead of the pencil neck geek and Kathy Porker. I got to tell you that I do not watch Arnold Schwarzenegger movies anymore after what he did to Maria. But anybody's better than those three idiots that are in line now.
Now, what do you think Katie Porter would do with the Love Child story? Do you think she'd make that part of the campaign?
Oh, yeah, they all would. They all would. Now, you know, you see what's going on in Washington. Anything's fair with love and war and politics. They're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. And I'm not happy with Arnold. I think he's lacking morally, and I think these people that are politicians in elected office are responsible for setting an example. And I'm really upset with Arnold for what he did, but I just can't stand the geek and Kathy.
What do you think Arnold would do with the alleged spousal abuse story in Katie Porter? Do you think he would bring that up?
No, I think he'd keep it under. If he pulls that gun out of the holster, he's going to get shot with hers. So I think he'll try to sweep it under the rug.
All right, thank you for the call. Let's go to Richard in Westminster. Richard, you're on KABC. Hello.
Hi, John. Hi, Randy. Love the show. I couldn't dial fast enough to get in and express an opinion. I have no love for the Democrats standing in line for the Senate. But this is the same Arnold Schwarzenegger during the pandemic that said, we have no rights. You have no rights. Go get the shot. Go get... Honestly, there's got to be an option C somewhere. And I just can't see Arnold in there because there's going to be another supposed pandemic coming. And once they take your rights away, you never get them back.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Don on the 5 freeway. Don, you're on KABC.
Hi, John. Hi, Randy. Hey, I would hold my nose, but I would definitely vote for him. I can't stand any of those other three.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger, even if he doesn't vote the way you want him to vote 100% of the time, if he's not malicious in there and trying to advance an agenda that you totally disagree with, that's progress?
That's progress. It's better than those three.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Jeff in Encino. Jeff, you're on KABC. Hello.
Yeah, hi. I'm going to echo the sentiments of most of your callers. He's not those other three. So he's better than them, and that's why I vote for him.
All right. He's the tallest building in Omaha, as they say.
Pretty much. He's the tallest jockey.
Let's go to John in Menifee. John, you're on KABC. Welcome.
Hi. I would definitely go with Mr. Schwarzenegger because I'm waiting for Mr. Schiff to be impeached and possibly even disbarred.
Oh, my God. Go ahead, sir.
Arnold is okay. He will be bored soon enough, but he will break up the Democratic game. And that's all I'm looking for, is to break that game up so that there's a chance for real people to actually win an election.
Well, if Arnold Schwarzenegger blocks Adam Schiff from going to the U.S. Senate, Adam Schiff is not going to be the angriest person in California. Adam Schiff is going to be the angriest person in the world.
Oh.
I can tell you're upset about that, sir.
He should really be even angrier when he gets disbarred.
Well, he'll have more time to go to the ice house in Pasadena.
That's true. Okay.
Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. Willie Brown says that Arnold Schwarzenegger is thinking about running for the U.S. Senate. He's not the most popular Republican in the state of California among Republicans, but if he were to be successful, he'd block Adam Schiff, Barbara Lee, and Katie Porter from ever seeing the site of the U.S. Senate. Would you vote for him? Former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown says that Arnold Schwarzenegger is thinking about running for the U.S. Senate. Would you vote for him? Let's go to Diana in Whittier. Diana, you're on KABC. Hello.
Hey, John. Love your show. Anyways, absolutely, in a heartbeat, if that would knock those three bozos out, I would do it. I'm not a super fan of Arnold, but I just cannot stomach the thought of any of them, especially Schiff and that other Porker lady getting in.
It's Porter.
Oh, okay, sorry.
You're like the emailers. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Brandy in San Diego. Brandy, you're on KABC.
Heck yeah, I'll take Arnie any day. He betrayed us. He totally betrayed us. But I remember back in the day, I lived in the San Joaquin Valley, and I was all proud. I was supporting Arnie. I regret it now, but I remember he had this thing where it was like there was a thing from the teachers union. It was a little screw, and it said "Screw Arnie" from the teachers union. And I got a bunch of those for my girlfriends because they all loved Arnold Schwarzenegger. But yeah, he turned out to beats the heck out of Shifty Schiff any day. But what I really want to know, Randy, is did you have some sopapillas to sop up that beautiful flippin' red chili sauce? Sorry, I got the vid, you guys. That's why my throat's all crazy. But sopapillas and red chili in Santa Fe, nothing better in the world.
There's nothing better, except if you go to the Shed, they actually give you garlic bread for the red chili, which they've been doing since the 40s, and boy, is it fabulous.
Ah, that is sacrilegious, but I will take your word for it because I can tell you understand, and I will give it a shot.
Woohoo!
All right. Thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
It's chili talk, everybody.
I feel like I'm Chef Jamie. Let's go to David in Whittier. David, you're on KABC.
Hello, John. Hey, Randy. How you guys doing?
Good.
All right. Oh, boy, this is a tough one for me. I kind of echo that previous caller who mentioned the Arnold's comments during COVID, especially for the people who chose not to take the vaccine. His comments were your freedom. So to pick between these guys, that's a tough one. But when you're looking at the other ones, that's how can you say no?
Here's the thing: a ballot is a multiple choice test, not an essay exam. So you have to pick the one that's the worst of the evils.
That's what it's boiling down to. Unfortunately, this is a wild one, but I think that's what you get in California these days. So it seems to be the lesser of the three or four evils.
All right, thanks for the call. Arnold. Let's go to Francis in Huntington Beach. Francis, you're on KABC.
Hi, John. I love your show. I've been listening for a long time. But anyway, let's get to the point. I don't like any of the three candidates, obviously. So I would have to vote for Arnold, but very apprehensively because did everyone forget that he compared the January 6th protest with Crystal Night?
With who?
Crystal Nacht.
Okay.
Crystal Night is an 80s band.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Crystal Nacht. Yeah, he did. And I just thought that was over the top because there's no comparison, obviously. And I did send him on Facebook a comment on that, and he should redo his history lesson.
All right. Well,
So
thank you for the
I
call.
vote for him, but
Okay, so that's a vote for Arnold, but a vote with reservation. Let's go to Alex in Westwood. Alex, you're on KABC. Hello.
Hey, what's up, guys? Love your show.
Thank you.
Would I vote for Schwarzenegger? Yes, but it's a lot like last call at a bar where you've been doing a little bit of drinking and the unattractive lady asks you back home. I wouldn't feel good about it, but I do it.
Wait a second, Alex. Are you claiming that Arnold Schwarzenegger would be the Republican Party slump buster?
One might have a sneaking suspicion that I am possibly referring to that, yes. God bless you guys. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too. Thanks for the call. Hey, it's only Monday, but I like the way this guy's thinking.
It's good to be back.
All right, we've got one more hour coming up on the John Phillips Show. Prince Frederick von Anhalt, widower of Zsa Zsa Gabor, joins us next. Don't you go anywhere. This is Talk Radio 790 KABC.
You can't touch it.